This is JT. Welcome to Bodyweight Strength, the channel where I teach you how to build serious lean muscle and strength utilizing only your body for resistance. In this video, what I'm going to show you is a core training routine that I did this last weekend when I was out of town for a funeral. And the reason I felt it was important to show this video, well, two reasons basically. The first reason is that if people address their core at all, a lot of times it's neglected in their training regimen, but if they address it at all, they tend to address anterior core, the front of the body. So your crunches, your sit-ups, your leg raises, or whatever it is they do, it's generally anterior core work. Then they don't have much, if anything, for posterior core. And I really believe that training the body with balance. So you train push movements, you need to train pull movements. You train upper body, you need to train lower body. If you train anterior core, you need to train posterior core. And I would actually argue maybe posterior, the body is a little more important than anterior. But anyways, in this session, what you're going to see is I did one set of anterior, then one set of posterior, balancing out the core training. And you don't have to do, a specific day for core, or every time you work anterior, work posterior mixed in. They can be on different days. But just make sure that you are addressing posterior core and anterior core in your training. And then the second thing is, we were out of town for a funeral for my aunt, and sometimes when life gets difficult, you want to take a days off, you want to take extra time off, and sometimes that's okay, right? I'm not one of these people that's going to tell you you can never take time off or take a day off. But what I also know is that when you're going through a stressful time in life, physical training can help you deal with and manage that stress more efficiently. So in this video, we were at the hotel, and I wake up much earlier usually than the rest of my family. And so my wife and kids were asleep, and I just slipped out of the room and went down and did a really efficient, I don't know if it was maybe 10, 12 minutes, something like that, training session. Then of course I rested 60 seconds between sets. So maybe the whole thing took like 20 minutes. In the video, I edit out the rest periods, and I'm gonna voice over this video. It's the first time I've done that, so we'll see how it goes. But basically, I slipped out of the room, hit a quick workout by the pool, came back, and the thing I noticed is, when I woke up, I was a little bit bummed out. It wasn't like I was terribly grieving at this particular time, but I woke up feeling just a little down. And once I physically exerted myself, I definitely picked up my mood, and I felt quite a bit better. And so it's just a little life lesson in there that when you're dealing with a difficult time, getting out and exerting yourself and doing something physical can oftentimes help you feel better. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's get to the video, and hopefully this helps you guys out. So the first thing that I did when we got to our hotel was scout out the grounds to see where I'd be able to get a training session in. And there was no gym, so no pull-up bar or anything like that. And so I found the pool area to be suitable, and it generally will be at most hotels. You've got chairs you can use to do dips, different types of dips. You can use the chairs for elevated one-arm or two-arm push-ups. In this case, I use the chairs to do inverted planks, which you'll see in this video. And then I used this lattice or the shade area to hang from to train hanging leg raises and front levers. And you could do pull-ups there, modified pull-ups if you can't find a way to get your head up above. Some places will be better than others. You've just got to work with what they have. So the first thing that I did was going to be inverted planks. And so these are an incredible posterior core movement. And what you'll find is that from your calves all the way to your traps, to your upper shoulder muscles, these give you really good work. And when you first start them, they won't feel difficult at all. But as you hold the position longer, they really do get intense. And specifically, you're going to feel them quite a bit in the lumbar region of your lower back. And what's critical with these is as you hold it, you want to try to not just hold a straight body. You want to press hard through the heels, through the traps, and push up through the hips for a slight arch. And in this way, you'll combat the natural sagging that happens as you start to fatigue, and you'll be able to hold the position much longer. And as you fatigue, you'll have to be more cognizant of really pushing the hips up. And so you can see throughout this video, as I start to get closer to failing, I'm constantly pushing my hips up more. The trick with a isometric movement like this is not just to bail way before you would reach a point where your body can't do any more work. You may not necessarily have to go to absolute complete failure to get results, right? Studies have shown people get results without going to complete failure. But if you're shortchanging and cutting yourself way short of the work capacity your body's capable of, then you're really going to be getting suboptimal results, and your progress is going to happen a lot slower. So definitely push yourself and try to hold these for as long as you can, and you can definitely hold them for longer than you think you can. So don't come down at your first instinct to come down. And I hold the first round of these for a while, but the second time through, it's significantly reduced because I already took this first set as far as I could. And I'm only resting 60 seconds between each exercise. I'm editing that out here to make this video shorter, but I'm only resting 60 seconds between each of these 4 exercises and then doing 2 rounds. So by the time I come to the second round of anything, I've got a level of fatigue going on that makes the work much harder. So from the inverted planks to a hanging leg raise, and I just kind of tested to make sure the lattice is secure. And then what I'm doing is hanging leg raise in a circular motion. Sometimes these are called around the world or windshield wipers. And what these are going to do is make the movement more difficult and shift focus to the obliques, so basically the lateral sides of the abdominals and the core. And one of the things you'll notice is I'm in an active hang, not a passive hang. And when you do hanging leg raises, make sure that you go into an active hang, pull your ears up over the shoulders, and that's going to keep you nice and stable. You can see how I'm not swinging around. Sometimes people will ask, in hanging leg raises, I'm swinging all over the place, and that's usually because you're in a passive hang. And so you want to maintain an active hang in your hanging leg raises. That's going to help keep you nice and stable. And to eventually get into a front lever, you've got to have a really solid active hang. You can't do a front lever in a passive hang, so you've got to start working that active. And from there, that was anterior core. Now back to posterior. This is going to be a press headstand. So I'm doing a headstand, and the key to headstands is that you want to support your body weight through the shoulders, through your hands and shoulders, not with your head. So your head helps you form a triangular base with 3 points of contact to the ground, and you're using your head simply for balance and supporting as little body weight as possible on your head, and you're supporting as much as possible on your hands and shoulders. And what you'll find is it doesn't look like this is a shoulder exercise. However, it is an isometric shoulder hold, and your shoulders will actually fatigue, and so you get really good shoulder work like this. In addition to the posterior work, as you see, raising my legs. If these are difficult, you can straddle, and so basically put your legs out at 45 degrees, and that'll take some of the weight of the legs and feet away from, or not being so far out from the body. It'll change the leverage, and you'll be able to do these more easily in a straddle. But that's the posterior core, and then from there, I go to a front lever, and this front lever is coming as the 4th movement in the order of exercises, and so I'm already pre-fatigued a little bit, so I don't hold this quite as long as I could a maximum front lever. And the goal for the short rest periods, like I'm doing here, my family's asleep in a hotel room. I didn't want to take forever to get a training session in, and I wanted to keep the intensity kind of high, keep my heart rate up, and make this into somewhat of a cardiovascular training session as well. And so that's kind of why the rest periods are not longer. Now going back, I repeat that order of exercises, so it's 2 sets each. I'm going to not just talk about the same stuff throughout the video, it's pointless and boring. But what I do want to talk about is, earlier in the video I mentioned getting out and getting some exercise when you're going through a tough time in life. And one of the things that happens when you exercise is different chemicals are released in the body. And so you've got, feel-good chemicals, you've got neurotransmitters, dopamine, and different things that are released. Epinephrine, norepinephrine is like what's traditionally called adrenaline. You actually have energy stimulating hormones that are released, and feel-good hormones that are released. But another thing that gets released during exercise is going to be ketone bodies, and specifically beta-hydroxy butyrate is a ketone body that is responsible for a whole host of cellular messaging and anti-aging and health promoting benefits. And some of the mental health benefits that are attributed to exercise are actually can be attributed to the actions of beta hydroxybutyrate. So when you exercise, whether or not you're following a ketogenic or low carb diet, even if you're in a high carbohydrate diet, there is some ketone production, albeit to a smaller degree, that happens as a result of exercise. And the longer the exercise goes on, or the more intense it is, then that benefit is enhanced. And so what I find ironic is that on social media, on Twitter, and on different avenues, you've got like low carb people, and they experience these awesome results, right? And oftentimes it centers around fat loss, which is arguably not because the carbs are low, but rather because the dietary energy is set and the protein is set to a place where fat loss happens. But either way, what happens is these low carb people, or these fasting people that fast, so they get these awesome health benefits from beta hydroxybutyrate, which are well documented. There's legitimate, it's not just an energy source, where traditionally we thought that ketones were just an alternate energy source. What we're finding now is that they are powerful cellular messaging molecules, and that they activate different genes. And so what I think is ironic, and what I'm getting at here, is that you've got the group of people that eat plenty of carbs, but they train hard, right? These are people that have, they take their exercise seriously, they take their fitness seriously, and they get after it, and they experience, obviously they look better. And that's not, you're not looking better because of the ketones, right? You're looking better because of the anabolic impact of resistance training, or, whatever type of exercise they're doing. But you experience improvements in mood, you experience improvements in mental focus and neurological functioning, and all these things. Your memory improves. A whole bunch of really awesome stuff happens from exercise, but a lot of that awesome stuff is happening from ketone production, even in the high carb athletes, even in the people that, so what I find super ironic and funny is that you've got this like kind of war, or this banter that goes back and forth between the low carb people and the higher carb people, and often it's revolving around fat loss, and the fasting people, right? And often it's around fat loss and whether or not these things improve fat loss. But when I look at this from a bird's eye view, I'm thinking to myself, the ketones are what are responsible for a lot of the health benefits that every single one of you are experiencing, whether it's from your diet inducing the ketogenesis, your fasting inducing the ketogenesis, or your hour and a half, intense workouts that are inducing the ketogenesis. So it's like everybody's getting health benefits from the same thing, but then everybody's bickering back and forth. It's just, I don't know, I find it funny and ironic. And so what I'm going to do after this video, I'm going to get into talking about diet, and it's no secret I'm very low carb, but like I kind of just alluded to, you don't have to be very low carb to experience benefits from ketone production. And so I'm not pushing low carb on anybody or everybody. But what we're going to do is talk about how to set your diet up to succeed when you're resistance training. And that can include carbs, or it can include very low carb. That's going to be completely up to you. And I'm going to discuss how to determine and choose which way to go. But just keep in mind that oftentimes, while there's a bunch of banter and bickering and all of that about fat loss and which diet's best, we're all experiencing benefits from ketone production. And they are responsible for some significant benefits. Obviously not all. There's differences between the different types of diets and fasting and working out. But beta hydroxybutyrate is not just an energy source, and it does a lot of awesome stuff, and we'll dig into that a little deeper. In that video, I talked the second half a little bit about diet, and diet in relation to some mental health and benefits of training. And I'd like to get into more of that content. I'd like to basically get into helping you determine what type of diet suits you best and how to set said diet up for success in training. Because even if you've got a good training program, and what I'm trying to put out there now is the content you need to have an efficient, well-formulated training plan, which I think I have the base of that out there now. If you are not eating to support your goal, if you don't have a successful base dietarily to allow you to achieve your end results, they're not going to happen. So if you guys want more, more nutritional advice, if you want more dietary advice with regards to how to set up a diet to be successful at training, sound off and let me know in the comments below. I'd love to dig into that more. but I also only have so much free time to generate content, and I want to make sure I'm using that free time to generate content you actually want and need. So if the overwhelming consensus is that you want me to focus on training, then I'm going to focus heavily on training. If you want more of a focus on diet and training, then let me know and I'll be able to generate content. I'll be able to answer questions you guys have, things that you tell me, I'll be able to research and create content for. So this whole thing's gonna be way easier if I'm getting feedback from you guys. So please sound off in the comments below. Let me know what you want to see. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, because I'm going to continue to generate content that I feel is high quality and I don't want you to miss any of it. And I appreciate you hanging in there with me.